I'm almost like shaking from from it, but it's funny how you talk about timing so much, and well, today specifically you talk about timing so much. And while you were speaking, it was like I got reminded of a question that I had thought of earlier, but as you're speaking, you're telling the answer of it, and so I don't need to.
Because everything that you ask for is always active in your vortex. And so when you're tuned in to this energy of source who has been dwelling with your vortex, then you're in the place where not just the question, but the answer comes fully into your experience. And that's what satisfaction is. In fact, that's only what satisfaction is. Someone could walk up to you and hand you something that you've been wanting, but the satisfaction of it isn't as great. The only place that satisfaction comes from is having an active vibration in your vortex and you having moved yourself vibrationally for the reception of it. So let's say you're really in need of something and somebody takes pity on you and gives it to you. And in the process, they don't mean to, but what they're actually conveying is, I see you cannot do this for yourself, so I'll do it for you. But there's no satisfaction in that. That's where that feeling of entitlement comes from, and where there's just not enough that can be done for you, because no matter how much is being given to you by those around you, you're never satisfied because you didn't line up with what's in your vortex. Satisfaction only comes from life causing you to create it, and then you finding vibrational alignment with it, and then you following your patterns from the receiving mode of witnessing the unfolding of it. That's why there are so many people who have so many things that are not really satisfied because they're not deliberate about their creation. You, however, can never go back. You now know what it is. You now have the formula for living happily ever after. And it's a good thing that you've got it too, because in every moment of your life experience, you're going to be asking for something more that hasn't manifested yet. And if you haven't taught yourself how to be satisfied without the full manifestation of it, because you're satisfied with the evolving manifestation of it, then you're always going to be miserable, because there's always going to be something else missing, something else missing. It's sort of like all of these things in the queue at different stages of readiness, and you at different stages of receptiveness. And the whole point, oh, hear it, the whole point, we want you to get this. We want you to once and for all feel the absolute value of your physicality and of the physical manifestationalness of this experience. You didn't come to meditate and just be happy in the absence of things that you want. But you do have to meditate and be happy in the absence of things that you want in order for them to manifest. But you didn't come to meditate and be happy in the absence of things that you want. You came to experience the full-blown manifestation, because this is the leading edge, and it's what we all came for. It's why we are all forward with you here. Can you follow that? But if you get your cart before your horse, if you care so much about a manifestation that you're not vibrationally ready for, then you are in frustration all the time, not letting yourself get into the receptive mode for the next step and the next step and the next step, each one of which can be so satisfying. And others, once you catch the spirit of this and once you start deliberately applying it, others who are physical and around you will watch you in your bliss, and they will wonder what's wrong with you, because what they know you want hasn't come about yet, but you're joyful anyway. And they're only used to seeing people joyful once they get the winning lottery ticket, or once harmony.com has brought them their true love. They're not used to seeing someone satisfied without the manifestations that they would want if they were you, or that they've heard you speak about. But they will begin to notice that there's a steady unfolding in your experience. And it doesn't take long before all kinds of things are popping into view in your experience. And they will start noticing the faster speed between your identifying of a desire and its full manifestation. And they will begin to say things about you like, oh, that guy seems like I just barely heard him express that for the first time. And I turn around and he's already living the fullness of it. Well, what is your magic? What star were you born under? Why are you receiving all of this luck? And they won't be able to hear you because they're still in that mode of responding to reality in positive and negative ways. But if you really wanted to help them out, you could say, I just figured out how to chill and how to be happy anyway. I just figured out how to be satisfied anyway. And somehow, the more satisfied without that I was, the faster it came. The more satisfied anyway I was. Because satisfaction is tuning to the vibrational frequency of what you want. And dissatisfaction is tuning away from the vibrational frequency of what you want. And if you are dissatisfied, it can unfold. And if you are satisfied, it can. That's the answer. Not only to living happily ever after, but to manifestations coming into your experience where you and others can experience them fully, you see. The other day, Esther meditated in the morning. And so did her friend who lives a ways away. So her friend came and they'd both been meditating, and they walked down through a part of Esther's garden, and there's a stream that makes really good sound. And her friend said, let's sit here for a little while and just listen to that stream. And so they sat there and looked at it and mostly listened to it. And Esther said, my gardener who put that stream there spent weeks doing it, and he placed the rocks for the purpose of the sound. And each day he'd come and listen, and then he'd move that rock over there, and he'd move that rock over there. And he was listening for the sound that the position of those rocks had accomplished. And Esther said, listen to the perfection of this stream. So they sat and they were listening to it. And then her friend said, ooh, it would be really sweet to meditate to that sound. And Esther said, let's do it. So they closed their eyes and they began meditating, and right away an airplane flew over. And then another one, and then another one. It was like something was happening, and they decided that every airplane in the world should fly right over there, which was uncommon. But there it was. But they were listening for the stream. And both of them had, and collectively is sometimes is exponentially more, tapped into a more powerful energy stream, and they were euphoric. And then they decided to take their walk. And as they were walking, Esther commented that was so fun, because she realized that that's the way real life is. You're tuning to something even though there are a lot of distractions. And so the airplanes going over was really perfect timing for this experience, because they were able to isolate the stream in the midst of all of that airplane noise. And Esther said, isn't that like real life? There's all this airplane noise around us, and yet if we're tuning to what feels good anyway, then there it is. And then shivers and goosebumps all over both of them. They were just elated. And then they had the best walk ever, with all kinds of critters and birds and creatures and greeters coming out of the woodwork. In other words, it was so obvious where they were, and every lovely thing in the vicinity of where they were walking came to greet them and play with them. They came around a corner that they'd been around many times and looked up to a house. It's a really hilly loop that they walk around. And up there's a house that Esther had never even laid her eyes on before. And there it's been on a pronounced place. There must be things in other parts of the walk that she's been seeing. But now she's looking up and she's seen architecture that she hadn't seen before. And they're both commenting, what is that? Am I looking into the house, or am I looking through a porch? I can't tell. And then a bird stood on top of that very spot that they were reveling in, and flew up about 3 feet and flapped its wings and then came down, and then flew up about 3 feet and flapped its wings and came down. And Esther says, either that bird thinks that he is what we are excited about, or he is excited about what we are excited about. But in any case, isn't this a lovely timing thing? Everything descending and crescending and arriving with you at these moments. That's the way it is supposed to live. And you reach this place where your capacity to taste it, your capacity to experience it. They came around another loop and literally stopped to smell roses and laughed at themselves in the process. Esther said, do you realize that we've stopped to smell the roses? And her friend said, yeah, but we weren't stopping to smell the roses. The roses just were there, needing to be smelled by us. It was another crescendo, another rendezvous. And Esther is certain that that rose was particularly fragrant in that moment in time. And it was. It was the way the sun was shining on it. It was the way the timing of the day. It was at its most fragrant moment. They'd walked past that rose for several days before, but now they've got their noses in the roses because they're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, because their inner being is taking the walk, because this is the way life is supposed to be. And while it sounds a little mundane, it's a walk, it's a bird, it's a building, it's an airplane, it's a waterfall. It was more than all of that. It was the entire universe descending upon them in order to accentuate and celebrate their alignment with Source. And that's the way every moment of every day is meant to be for you. And it can be, you see. And then you have an occasional step 5 moment where you're back in contrast and not hating it. Back in contrast and appreciating the contrast and the characteristics of expansion that it holds for you. Life is so good, and you are in such a good place and in such a good time with such good knowing. Enough?
I just love you so much. Your ability to just know what's in my energy and answer it without me having to know what I need to know.
It's the way it is all day, every day, for every one of you. All day, every day. You have Source aware of you and loving you and rooting for you and flowing to you and offering vibrational thought and information that the happier you are, the more receptive of it you are. And we're not spilling out the whole story to you all day, every day. How boring would that be? You don't want someone to explain to you exactly where you're going. You just want to be ready for this and ready for this and ready for this and ready for this and ready for this. Until in a moment in time, so many things that are in your vortex can be satisfied simultaneously. So many things.
Okay, I think I'm good.
We think so too.